Hello, everyone. I'm Kimberly Guilfoyle, along with Julie Roginski, Eric Bowling, Dana Perino, and Brian Kilmeade. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. New announcements from President-elect Trump on this Thanksgiving Eve. Mr. Trump has chosen South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley to be America's ambassador to the UN. He also picked Michigan businesswoman Betsy DeVos for Education Secretary. She's a charter school advocate. Haley and DeVos are the first two women to be tapped for key posts in his administration. There are also conflicting reports over Ben Carson today. Just a few minutes ago, Carson's spokesman said Trump has not offered Carson the post of Housing and Urban Development Secretary. Here's Dr. Carson talking about the potential position.
Dr. Carson, now they're apparently interested in having you, if this is right, to be a HUD secretary. Would you be interested in that?
Well, you know, our inner cities are in terrible shape, and they definitely need some real attention. You know, there have been so many promises made over the last several decades and nothing has been done. So it certainly is something that has been a long-term interest of mine.
Has it been offered, sir?
We have had offers, yes.
And is it the HUD position?
I would say that was one of the offers that's on the table.
All right, and no further interviews till we figure out who's on first. Well, who's at HUD? No one knows.
Kimberly, the problem is he does not like not telling the truth. So when you're asked directly by somebody you respect like Neil Cavuto,
right.
I'm sensing it happened, but he doesn't play the game. He's a surgeon that is a great person that got an offer, so he answered the question honestly. There is no place for honesty in politics.
That's the problem we have here, Bowling. This isn't the honesty game.
Except there was reporting that not only was he offered the job, he accepted the job.
Right.
And then a couple minutes later on the way down, no, hold on, he didn't accept. Not only did he not accept the job, he wasn't even offered it yet.
Then there was like a Facebook post.
It's really right. And there's posts and whatnot and the reportage. But what we do know is Nikki Haley was, in fact, offered the job of U.S. ambassador to the UN, which is fantastic. Early morning, I woke up to it, and I emailed Dana. I said, Dana, why would a successful, smart, well-respected governor of a South Carolina state, Republican, take a job as ambassador to the UN? She said, this is perfect. I'll let Dana explain why, but wow, that's a fantastic
So it was Dana Perino.
That was my Dana Perino question.
Yeah. Well, one thing I would say for Dr. Carson is that if you are up for a job, or anybody who is up for a job in the administration, for the new administration, don't book yourself on television until it's settled, because you're going to get put in that position. And Dr. Carson is not alone in not wanting to lie, I would say.
I just found out he's on the Kelly file tonight.
Of course.
What's likely is it's a done deal, but it's not.
Not announced.
Timing wasn't
and like you should just you should always let the president-elect make that announcement, not yourself.
Right.
On Nikki Haley,
we got 4 hours to figure that out before the Kelly post.
When I got Eric's email, I thought, well, I will respond this way. I think she is a public servant at heart. She's had a long list of public service. She has probably not going to. She was not going to run again, I don't think, for governor of South Carolina. She has an immigrant story. A successful family business in America. She showed her ability to be an amazing diplomat after the shooting at the AME Church in Charleston.
Very much.
And she handled the Confederate flag issue in a way that pretty much everyone praised her at the end of that. So I think this is a really natural step for her. She was not for Trump at the beginning. She was for Marco Rubio, but she came around at the end and supported him. And I think that shows that, one, he respects her and thinks that she'll be able to add to his foreign policy agenda, and there will be a lot of issues that she has to take care of right away. And first of all, it will be the refugee crisis and how the administration decides to handle that and how different it might be from what President Obama had. And the other thing that will be just a major issue, because it always is at the UN, is climate change.
Sure.
And she'll be right in the middle of that. So I think it's a really great pick for her. Plus, if she has plans for a future run for higher office, then foreign policy experience is something that she would need.
It's a win-win for her.
I think it's perfect.
And if Pence didn't want to be VP after 4, she would also be excellent in that.
I think you'll see a really good governor's race in South Carolina, and you'll probably see somebody who's on the national stage now decide to run.
Any predictions on that?
I think it'll be Tim Scott.
I love it when you answer those questions. All right, don't play hard to get, just answer. Yeah, Julie.
Well, first of all, I'm going to be in the Kelly file, so I'm going to get to the bottom of this.
Okay. You're going to investigate Ben Carson.
I'm going to investigate. I will report right back to you at 9 o'clock tonight. I'm going to get to the bottom of this. Look, I actually agree with you on Nikki Haley. I think it's a smart pick. What I like about it is that Trump, President-elect Trump, is not just surrounding himself with sycophants. He's actually reaching out to people who weren't necessarily with him all along, and hopefully looking for diversity of opinion in his foreign policy team.
Can I add not only diversity of opinion, but sheer diversity?
Yeah, I mean,
look at the three who were named, or at least floated, two named and floated.
2.5.
Nikki Haley, Betsy DeVos, and Ben Carson, an African-American, two females, and one with an pseudo-immigrant past, parents, right?
Parents from India.
So the two things that the two strikes they were saying about Donald Trump was that white males elected, and we proved that one wrong, and that he had a thin skin. If you have a thin skin, you don't tap Nikki Haley, someone who is aggressively campaigning for Marco Rubio throughout the primary process.
No, you tap Mike Flynn, but if you have a thin skin. But I'm happy to hear that he's rounding out his foreign policy team. I certainly hope he chooses Mitt Romney, who I share.
Interesting.
As Secretary of State.
As Secretary of State, I share his concern about Russia, and so I'm happy to hear that hopefully he'll be considered as Secretary of State.
Yeah, I just like to say, at 44 years old, if I'm her career counselor, this is the best thing that ever happened to her. Number two, I think that Rick Grinnell also would have been pretty strong.
I was just going to say that.
So that would have been an excellent choice too. But I do think that Nikki Haley is going to be great. And by the way, it's just very hard for Donald Trump to find someone who is critical of him. That's the problem, because I'm being sarcastic. He had so many critics and so many sides, and he does not care. I mean, my goodness, he went to see the New York Times yesterday. Everyone there is a critic. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see. I think more pressure on Nikki Haley to go along with Donald Trump than Donald Trump to go over with Nikki Haley, because she's got to do what his policies say.
That is for sure. And I hope they do find a great position for Rick Grinnell, because he's a real asset to the party. All right, we are still waiting for word on the Secretary of State position and whether it will go to Mitt Romney, like we were just mentioning. Now, Romney does not, as you may have been aware if you watch this channel, which I hope you do, Newt Gingrich and Mike Huckabee's vote. Take a listen.
I would be concerned, one, I think the vast majority of Trump's supporters will initially be very unhappy and will be reminded of all the things that Romney said over the year. And two, because Romney does represent a very different viewpoint. I mean, authentically, I'm not sure whose Secretary of State he would be.
But I'm still very unhappy that Mitt did everything he could to derail Donald Trump. There's only one way that I think Mitt Romney could even be considered for a post like that, and that is that he goes to a microphone in a very public place and repudiates everything he said in that famous Salt Lake City speech and everything he said after that.
Okay, Dana, so your thoughts on that, the two opinions?
Again, I would say that if you are up for a possible cabinet position or somewhere in the government, it's probably smart not to be on television at the moment and just let that process play out, because they don't get to decide. They can advise and they can comment and they can advise through the media if they want, but Donald Trump gets to decide. And he may or may not choose Mitt Romney. I don't know, but I think that in some ways when you're publicly pressured like that, it makes you want to do it more.
Yeah. Interesting. All right, so Eric, we know, Julie, I got your opinion on this, so that was good.
I don't like him for Secretary of State. Everyone else in the world seems to like him for Secretary of State, and for the reasons that both Huckabee and Newt said. Look, Donald Trump was elected by people who love Donald Trump, who love Donald Trump's vision. Mitt Romney never had that. I do think Mitt is talented. He's smart. I remember back when he was tapped to fix the Olympics, and remember that was where he excelled. So, what's the most possibly the most broken system in government right now? It's the VA. Have Mitt go and turn that thing around. Get in there and shake that place up. Break some unions. You know, bust some unions up. Start offering some of the things that Donald Trump promised, where veterans get vouchers.
I know. I don't think he has the right background experience for veterans, and I also don't think he's being strongly considered for that, to be honest with you, because I do know who is. Go ahead, Brian. Here's
the problem for Mitt Romney. David Petraeus, in an interview with the BBC, yesterday, said, if I'm asked, I'll serve. And my goodness, if you want a guy that's really motivated to change his reputation back to where it was, which is off the charts great, it is David Petraeus. He's got a lot of international experience. He's got a lot of contacts. He understands what it means to go to war. He understands what it means to be a diplomat. He understands how to work the media. And he also understands what it takes to follow orders. And the fact that he told the BBC that if asked, I would would do it, and twice he answered again. And the fact that General Keane was offered the job, was offered the defense job, but he had a chance to talk to Trump afterwards for quite a long time. I'm sure he said, hey, the guy I mentored, David Petraeus, you got to keep him in mind. He'll be great for you. So that might be the greatest threat.
You know what's interesting about Petraeus, though, and I sincerely mean this, this is not a snarky comment by a liberal, is, which is usually my comment, thanks, but David Petraeus, right or wrong, has some of the problems that a lot of the Trump people castigated Hillary Clinton for.
Yep.
And when you empower David Petraeus for the same job that Hillary Clinton had, who has the same problems that Hillary Clinton had, what does that say about how genuine you were about Hillary?
You're not wrong to say that, but I would say the magnitude of the two is very different. There's one guy with a legitimately a war record that will go down in history, in military history.
Who also paid for his crime.
Paid for it big time, and he made a huge mistake as head of the CIA, which was the wrong place for him anyway. Not to excuse it, but if he goes through the vetting process and goes through the Senate, I think that he's a guy can join the club. Not perfect.
Yeah, but interesting, Julie's comments, too, about Mitt Romney, because he is somebody who is very capable. Just in general, for some kind of appointment, it sounds like your team would approve.
It's not that my team would approve, but I'd be very curious. Just me. But let me just finish my thought, though. What's interesting to me is that Trump has such close connections to Russia, whether through people that potentially finance his operation, the fact that his son met in France last year, or earlier this year, I'm sorry, with a bunch of Putin people in Syria. And to have somebody who's such a hawk on Russia, which I love, be his Secretary of State would be incredibly fascinating to me. Romney would be incredibly fascinating to me.
But also, look at the problems you get into. Well, look, Hillary Clinton worked directly with President Obama on their Benghazi strategy, worked together with them on the Iran strategy. And look how it turned out. Mitt Romney doesn't see anywhere near eye to eye with Donald Trump's vision of foreign policy anywhere.
Would you put him someplace else besides the VA?
That's what I said.
Besides, give me another one.
Well, I don't know, but I just don't want to. I wouldn't want to see him representing the President Donald Trump's vision of foreign policy. The guy's not a non-interventionist. And you're going to send Mitt Romney into that around the world?
His dad always gave him advice. Whatever you do, don't serve as a cabinet official for a president. He hated it when he served for Nixon. He's used to being in charge, a CEO and a former governor. But as Secretary of State, you kind of do your own thing. That would be a little bit different.
Well, it'd be more, it would be more interesting.
But you can't show any daylight between the president and the Secretary of State.
I know, but
Not that I think that there would be, and I actually think that they think of this more as a business arrangement than anything personal.
Well, you want to get stuff done. Choose the best people.
So.
Hey, put him at Treasury. The guy knows money inside now.
That's what I'm saying. There you go. All right, we've solved all the problems, so now we're just going to go to commercial break till special report. Just kidding. President-elect Trump held a series of high-profile meetings with the press this week. Will the mainstream media consider covering him fairly now? His senior advisor, Kellyanne Conway, has a message for the press when the 5 returns.